Good evening, everybody. My name is Zach Greenlee. I want to welcome you to our presentation tonight. I am the Deputy Director of Student and Family Engagement in our Student Financial Services Office. And joining me is a good friend to our office, Andrea Stewart-Douglas, Director of our Office of Financial Wellbeing. I should allow you to introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Zach. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Andrea Stewart-Douglas, and I am the Director of the Office of Financial Wellbeing. Have been in this role for about a year and a half now.
Wonderful. So as I said, my name is Zach Greenlee, and I'm representing the Student Financial Services Office tonight. What is important for us to discuss is all of the time that you have between now and the start of school. There, de depending on what is new to you from this, a lot of different things that you're going to want to tackle. You might have students who've already gone through the college experience, and this might not be new information to you, but we still want to make sure that we're presenting all this in a new and a fresh way. So in Student Financial Services, we're going to discuss who we are and how we can help you. Our team is comprised of service center representatives and financial aid counselors. That is the department that I oversee, which is the Student and Family Engagement team. We have a really dynamic team, combined total of over 60 years of experience with our financial aid counselors and almost 30 years experience with our service representatives. In addition to the team that I oversee in student and family engagement, we have many other staff members who assist us with compliance, our systems set up to make sure that our systems are integrated with federal and national systems, administrative support, data analysis, and operations. Each student is assigned a personal counselor based on their last name or their affinity to QuestBridge programs. And additional staff do assist with document collection and review, processing outside scholarship funds. And so some information that you might receive will ask you to reach out to our general departmental email inboxes. But if you're wanting to speak with someone directly, here's our wonderful counseling team. As I said, we have over 60 years of combined experience on this team. We are looking to add another person here in the coming weeks who will assist with students that have last names K through P, which is currently being assisted by Vicky Mueller. But depending on your part of the alphabet, A through E would be Max McKee, F through J, Ariel Brown, Q through Z is Jennifer Powell. And as I said, my affiliation is to serve QuestBridge students. Each week, we have office hours, Monday through Friday, where we can assist you. So even though you might have a specific assigned counselor, all of us uphold the duty to represent any student and assist with their needs through our counselor on duty session. Some of the routine work we do as counselors might be helping students navigate their applications, the FAFSA or the CSS profile, or navigating changes to those applications that may occur throughout the year for special circumstances. We're also generally responsible for coordinating the financial resources around campus and working with programs led by our campus partners like the Office of Financial Wellbeing. Responding to changes in how the student enrolls is another way that we serve students, the services that they utilize. So for example, if they're taking courses abroad or if they choose to stay off campus in a subsequent year, we're going to adjust their financial aid packages accordingly to make sure that they're supported in those engagements. And our office hours are 9 to 5 every day. And again, I want to point out our counselor on duty session, which runs from 11 to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. We got to make sure we emphasize that Central Standard Time, as I do have families who will be joining us from all parts of the world, and it might be well into the evening that some of them are joining those sessions. So in those sessions, you can take a quick opportunity to ask questions of any counselor that's on duty that day. It's generally not going to be an engaged conversation that would last 15, 20 minutes. It's usually for quick answers, but we will always take your questions that are unable to be answered in the moment for time constraints or if there are too many people joining the counselor on duty sessions, and refer those out to your counselor so that they can follow up with you at a later time. So this summer, there are a lot of things that might be on your checklist. One of those things that's very important, one of the major developments you'll see is the release of student bills, which will be at the beginning of July. And so we'll spend some time going over the expectations you should have around billing. What I'm displaying here is the cost of attendance for the upcoming year. This displays the university charges that all students incur, with tuition and student fees. And then housing and meals are a variable charge. The base charges are generally assumed to be a modern double room for students and a platinum meal plan for students in their first year. Students may make modifications to those. So these are the standard areas for which we bill. And modifications can be made through student portals, and the housing portal would allow you to specify different housing locations if they've not already applied for housing. And your student may also have some course fees. So occasionally you might find that a course has an associated lab fee with it. Some courses come with a textbook or material fee, and those would be in addition to those university charges you see emphasized in bold text on the left side of your screen. We'll talk about the other estimated expenses for things like transportation, books and supplies, and personal expenses later on. Another cost that we'll talk about on the university charges will relate to the student health insurance plan, which we generally refer to as the SHIP, but the student health insurance plan is another charge that students will be assessed. We'll talk about that in a moment. Our bills are posted to the student through their Workday account. So students should be setting up their accounts in Workday. And while federal privacy laws prevent us from sending information to parents directly, students can activate an account for you under the Friends and Family tab. After they've activated an account for you, you'll be able to see general information like their account activity, their student statements, and you'll also have the ability to make payments. You should also encourage that your student takes time in their workday to accomplish some other tasks this summer to be ready for the fall semester. They can do things like set up a bank account for direct deposits. So if your student has enough financial aid processed to the account that they are due a refund, those refunds will be sent by physical checks by default. But if they take time to set up direct deposit, it will expedite the process of them receiving those refunds. Many of those students who are receiving refunds find those refunds necessary to support the costs that they initially incur. So do take some time with your student to go through and set up direct deposit. It will also be the same bank account that you would use to make payments. Students should do other things like review the to-do items for Title IV authorizations, or update their personal information, making sure that we have their current address, their emergency contact information as well. There are a number of different ways that you can pay. Most families will take advantage of paying through our website. Using an ACH account avoids any additional fees incurred. With credit and debit cards, there will be service fees attached, so using ACH will avoid those fees. You're able to set up payments through an installment plan. Those payments are due generally around the 20th or 21st of each month. School begins on Monday, the 21st of this year. Accounts are assessed a 2% late fee for any payments that are late, past the due date. What is unique to this payment process is that families must go in and initiate the payment on a monthly basis. So it would be wise to set up a calendar reminder to make sure that you're going in there on a monthly basis when your payment due date is scheduled and initiate that payment directly. Each academic period is able to be set up with 5 installments. August through December would be 5 installments. January through May would be 5 installments. And then our summer period does not have payment plans available to it. One of the points that you want to focus on when setting up your payment plan is, do you have all of the known charges already on the account? So a word of caution around this would be, have your student make sure that their course schedule is fully reflected in their bill. If they are put on a wait list for a course, and for example, it might be a chemistry lab, if they don't see that course as a registered course because they're on the wait list, they might not have a chemistry lab fee on the course, and that fee could come at a later time. It is generally going to be the case that all known charges, the ones I outlined earlier for tuition and fees, dining, and housing, are on the bill, but it is possible that small course fees might be added throughout the semester. Payment plans do auto-adjust for those charges when they are added. And we expect payment plans to open on July 6th. I mentioned the Student Health Insurance Plan, our SHIP. So since all students are initially assessed this cost, what is imperative to families is to initiate a waiver process if you have your own insurance coverage. If you have adequate coverage, you have to fill out a waiver, and that will lead our Student Health Center to remove the insurance premium from the account. The insurance premium is charged in early July. We're currently waiting on the amount of that insurance plan to be announced. It should be towards the very end of June. So what I'm advertising here on the slide tonight is the cost for this current past year. The amount for the 2025-2026 school year was $2,712. Coverage does begin on August 1st and it runs through July 31st of the subsequent year. You're only billed the one time, so it will only be a charge on the fall academic period for families who do have to pay it. So your fall semester will not be exactly aligned with what the spring semester will be. It will have an additional fee for the health insurance on the fall semester. So again, once the health insurance program is announced to students and families, there will be an opportunity to go in and fill out a waiver process, and that waiver process closes on September 5th. In addition to installment plans and paying out of pocket with your resources, we want to go over some additional payment options that families need to know about this summer. The first one I'll emphasize is our Partners in Education with Parents program, PEP. So the PEP program is a financing program through WashU, and it has several different options available to you. One option is to just borrow annually for the amount that you need to cover. And on an annual plan, it has a fixed interest rate, which is a low interest rate, a competitive interest rate to the private market, and it is 7.45%. But we also have options to borrow for multiple years. So our multi-year plan would allow you to borrow the cost for 3 semesters or up to 8 semesters, which would be 4 years, fall and spring semesters. You're able to borrow the cost for tuition, fees, housing, and dining meals. You are able to prepay those. If you are not borrowing, you can do a prepay program and pay for all 4 years. Or you can do a combination of prepaying from your resources and borrowing using our combination plan. For any part that is borrowing over the multiple year scenario, the interest rate would be 6.95%. And the advantage to doing this is when you are prepaying or borrowing through the PEP program for multiple years, you are allowed to cover a percentage of the overall costs through that program. And the percentage of the cost that you're covering through that program then get frozen for the duration of the period you're covering. So if you're covering all 4 years, you would prevent price increases on the areas that you're covering. It is important to read the information that is published on our website about that and then go through the application. There is information on our website around the phrase participation rate, and I want to double underscore that phrase. Our participation rate is the amount that you're securing through this program, and that is the percentage that would be frozen and protected from future year increases. The application is early. This year we have it open, and so we encourage you to apply by June 1st. That doesn't disadvantage you if you apply later, but by applying June 1st or around June 1st, it advantages us to have that information on your bill when July comes and your bill is released. If you apply later, you can do that throughout the summer, but it would be advantageous to you to apply earlier than your bill is due in August. Some other ways families would cover this would be through a federal loan program called the Federal Plus loan. The Parent Plus program allows you to borrow up to $20,000 per year That is an annual cap, and it is a cap per student. So if you have two parents who are sharing the responsibility of borrowing, they would only be able to borrow up to $20,000 cumulatively for the student. You could not have both parents borrowing $20,000 for a combined total of 40. So each might borrow $10,000 and reach that $20,000 maximum. The interest rate is now currently being set for the coming year. The Treasury Department just set this rate in recent weeks when they auctioned off their 10-year Treasury notes, and we're waiting on the Department of Education to publish those interest rates, though the initial information from our Treasury Department, the United States Treasury, is that the interest rate for those loans will be at 9.07% interest. For private lending, we do offer a number of options. What we publish is a historical list of agencies our students have borrowed from. And in that historical lending list, you're able to go through our resources to compare and contrast different lending agencies. We can make that lending list available to you if you inquire with us. It is also accessible through our website. Another resource on our website that I want to point out here so that you're able to compare all three of these, the PEP program, the Federal Parent Plus program, and private loans, as well as installment plans. So I should say the comparison is really to 4 different opportunities here to finance this. I would encourage you to go to our website and use the financial planning comparison worksheet. And in that comparison worksheet, it will give you a breakdown of how the different strategies would play out. In recent weeks, your student might have been learning about private scholarships, and so I want to touch on that for a moment. At WashU, receiving an outside scholarship does not automatically reduce your students' need-based scholarships or their merit-based scholarships. These scholarships are generally added to the student's existing financial aid offer. So when they receive a private scholarship or an outside scholarship, as we refer to it, that generally gets added to the student's contribution. It is possible, however, that the total amount of financial aid, when you look at the combined totals from WashU, federal and state governments, and private scholarship organizations, the total amount of that aid could exceed the student's cost of attendance for a year. And should that occur, there's generally going to be a reduction in aid for one source. So funding from outside scholarships might be currently trickling in. If you've already found out about some of those, we encourage you to start submitting that information to us, or you need to send our information to the scholarship agencies. Anyone who has received a private scholarship, I would really encourage you and stress this with your student to have them set up reminders in their phone or in their calendars to renew those scholarships. It is a very well-known fact that students stop applying for private scholarships after they matriculate to a university. But all of the emphasis that's given in the senior year that they're just completing is a process that they need to follow through on in subsequent years. So if they've had a high school guidance counselor pointing out particular scholarships to them over the past year, they're going to be without that resource in subsequent years. And so we encourage students to make sure that their due diligence is to renew those scholarships and to continue looking for new scholarships in the subsequent years. I did mention sharing the information about your private scholarships with us. So if you receive scholarship offer letters or certificates, you can forward those to us at outsideawards@wusl.edu. If you receive checks directly, you can have those mailed to us at the address on our website, which is posted here in this slide. And you're also able to share this information with the scholarship agency directly, as most scholarship agencies do have a preference to relay the information to us or to send the checks directly to us rather than to send it through families. Private scholarships are a great way to help reduce the costs that are not covered by your WashU scholarship. Another way to help fund the cost of your education is through on-campus employment. And so we'll talk about the process of applying for on-campus jobs. Our Center for Career Engagement has a job-seeking platform, and that platform hosts both on-campus and off-campus employment. Tens of thousands of employers post their positions on here. So students are able to use filters on that platform to isolate the on-campus jobs and the off-campus jobs if they prefer to work those. It also allows for filtering of federal work-study jobs. So if your student is federal work-study eligible or FWS eligible, they're able to see specific jobs that are not available to the rest of the student population. But students who are not federal work-study eligible are also able to find jobs and search those out. We encourage students to begin looking at the website now, but a number of positions will not become available until closer to the start of school. So if you go to our Center for Career Engagement website, towards the top, there will be a link that says on-campus employment or access handshake, and your student will set up an account through that platform. Some other things your student can be doing this summer to prepare for employment. After they've created their account, they should begin reviewing positions, making sure to check it frequently throughout the summer, but more frequently towards the end of July. As your student comes to campus, make sure that they bring their employment documents with them. We do have to satisfy I-9 requirements for the government. And so they'll look at the I-9 requirements that are published on the website and bring those available. So passport, driver's license, different IDs that are issued to the student. And then in late August, we have an on-campus student employment fair that they should mark on their calendars. After school begins, that'll be announced through email. So returning to a conversation we had at the beginning of this, there are other types of expenses beyond what is just billed to a student. Expenses like books and supplies, transportation, and personal or miscellaneous effects. We'll go through each one of those quickly here. Books and supplies are an area that you want to budget for. Often the cost is only incurred at the beginning of a semester. Most books are bought as classes begin. Very rarely are students continuing to buy books throughout the semester unless they have classes that are beginning later in the semester, or if they want to supplement what they're learning in a class with an additional optional textbook that might be advertised by the course syllabus. But they are going to continually buy course supplies throughout the year and renew ink pens, notepads, and different things that they're relying on. Most costs do come at the beginning. Students are able to look through those materials in their course syllabi and determine what they're needing to purchase. There are some academic programs that may require the purchase of a computer. Some students will qualify for technology grants from the university. And so if your student does qualify for a technology grant, we'll make those available in July so that the student has ample time to research the available computers, making sure that they are the right type for their academic program. Every computer that we advertise for our technology grant is going to meet the minimum requirements for the academic programs. After registering for courses, students will know what courses they specifically are searching out on our campus store website. There are occasionally courses that will purchase the material to the student account. We refer to that as a Follett access material. So if you were to go to our website and put in your course details as shown on screen here for a psychology course, and then look for the materials, you would see that that material is presented with a note that says it has already been charged to the account. It advertises the price and the delivery method for that. That is a digital textbook, but it would also note that that available material is not able to be added to a shopping cart. Transportation costs are really variable for families, and so the amount that we're advertising with our cost of attendance might not speak to your particular situation. As best we can, we average that amount out so that it meets most families' needs to have 2 round trips per academic year. A trip to school at the beginning of the year, a trip home at the end of the year, and in winter, a trip back to their home residence and then back to school at the start of school in January. But you'll ask questions. Will it be transportation by bus? Will it be transportation by air? However you're getting to the university, you want to make sure that your budget aligns with that. How often you'll go home might change the amount that you're budgeting as well. For some families, we have many joining us from Illinois tonight. I saw Chicago on the map. That might be a drivable distance over several weekends. But again, the cost that we're advertising in our cost of attendance is really just isolated to 2 round trips through the year. So do make sure that you're looking at how frequent your family might travel here or have the student travel back and budget for those things. And the last category is personal expenses. Personal expenses are not always a new cost. Certainly, traveling here from New York is going to be a cost that you don't regularly incur, but personal expenses might be an area you're already compensating for in your current budget. You're already buying deodorant and shampoo for your child. As you look at the personal expenses that they'll take on as an enrolled college student, there might be new expenses like bedding or clothing. The laundry detergent and hamper for tracking your clothes down to the laundry room might be a new expense. And then there'll be consumable expenses as well, like shampoo and deodorant. So some of that might be already included in a budget that you're maintaining as a household, but some of it might be new expenses. Rather than think of all of this as new costs, these are indirect costs that you just want to be prepared for. And so they don't necessarily have to be paid, but you want to at least approach them in conversation with your student to make sure that they have a plan for what they might need throughout the year. So since these indirect costs are variable for families and every student is unique, we want to talk a little bit about the process of planning for that through budgeting. And so as students interact with our office over the coming months, they'll be emphasizing the resources through our Office of Financial Wellbeing. So at this point, I'd like to hand the presentation over to my co-presenter tonight from the Office of Financial Wellbeing, Andrea Stewart-Douglas.
Thank you, Zach. And I'm going to ask you to do me a huge favor.
Absolutely.
So I don't cause any complications with the view of the presentation deck. I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind clicking through for me.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. So thank you for that introduction. And again, I'm very delighted to be speaking with you all about our office, which is a fairly new office to the university. I mentioned early on that I've been in this role for about a year and a half, but prior to that, most of my tenure here at the university was within the Office of Student Financial Services. So when it comes to helping students navigate finances, the university recognized that in addition to helping students understand about their financial aid awards, having to navigate that process, it was also important to really devote time and resources to helping students understand the facets of managing money overall as a student and well beyond that as well. And so I would like to just take a very brief minute to talk about the importance of financial well-being education. As I mentioned before, the university decided that it was a really good investment of time and resources to set up another way to educate students when it comes to money. And so when we put together a framework for building out this new unit, we wanted to make sure that the approach was one that was sound and one that was really meeting the needs of students here at WashU. And so when we think about our approach, we're following an approach that we consider to be one that's comprehensive and one that is also holistic because our thinking when it comes to financial education is that not only do we want to help students learn core skills and competencies when it comes to finances, things like learning how to create a budget, what's in a credit report, things of that nature, but we also want to have an impact in terms of helping them decide on their approach or their mindset when it comes to money. Because what we're also trying to do is to influence their behaviors so that during their time here at WashU and after that, they understand how to make healthy financial decisions and to exhibit healthy habits and behaviors when it comes to managing money. We understand here at WashU in particular that students learn in many different ways. There's just not one foolproof way that students will learn. And as a result of that, we understand the importance of building out different ways or modalities for students to hear information, process information, and learn. And so we've created 4 delivery channels in an effort to accomplish that. Our primary way is through workshops. And in a few slides from here, you'll be able to see some of the workshops that we delivered this past year. But we know that workshops are a very effective way for students to get real-time information. We also know that students also learn or will figure out ways to get information on demand. And this is usually going to be at a time that is most convenient. We know WashU students are very, very busy. And so we wanted to be able to provide a way for students to access information at a time that was most convenient around their schedule. So we offer what we call iGrad online tool, and we will share more information about that in a moment. Another way or facet of delivering information and support to students is through one-on-one coaching. We provided financial coaching to students over this past year and have developed a peer-to-peer coaching program as well. And so we'll talk more about that in a second. And then there are informal touch points. There may be students who may not have time to attend a workshop. Maybe their schedules will not allow them to access an online tool or even take time to do one-on-one coaching. But there are times when those informal touch points, those tabling events, those one-on-one meetings may cause students to hear information. Maybe it may plant a seed, or maybe it might spark an interest that a student may have on things like budgeting or investing and saving. And so we definitely utilize that as one effective channel to try to get information to those students who may receive it best in that mode. So this slide illustrates our flyers. These are the workshops that we provided to students through the fall semester. We started out the year with providing them information on how to create a budget. And as Zach mentioned in the presentation, we know that there are indirect or what I like to call out-of-pocket expenses that students are going to have. Many students that we work with, this is their first time away from home. Many of them have not had a lot of experience in managing money. And so we are providing them with the nuts and bolts, as well as the support in helping to build their confidence and their ability to manage money, again, many times for the first time. So we start the year out with a budgeting workshop. We also want to deal with the psychology behind money and decision making there. So we provide a Mind Over Money workshop series as well. We also support graduate students. Although primarily we're supporting undergraduate student populations, we also provide support to our graduate students. So we bring in Dr. Emily Roberts, who will also provide information to students in terms of helping them figure out their tax situations. Financial aid is still an ongoing learning for students, and so we bring in a representative from Student Financial Services to go over the financial aid awarding in case students still have maybe some lingering questions or need to get some more support in helping them fill out their FAFSA and CSS profiles. October is Cybersecurity Month, and so we actually this year had a representative come in from our Information Security Office, and they talked to students about ways in which they can protect themselves from cyber theft. And it was a very engaging, enlightening workshop that students, I think, really appreciated. And so we're probably going to repeat that again for this year, but we know that cyber crime and theft is on the rise, and so we want to make sure that WashU students are doing all that they can in terms of their decisions and behaviors when it comes to how they're managing their money online. We want to ensure that they have all the latest and up-to-date information possible. And then we also have workshops for students that are on the verge of graduating. We want to make sure that we are preparing our students for the world that awaits them when it comes to managing money. So we're covering topics such as saving for retirement through a 401k plan. We even talk about other benefits. We have students that we review job offers for. So we walk them through the nuts and bolts of what a job offer looks like, the cost of living in maybe some of the cities that they're planning to move to, how they can build budgets in those areas effectively. And so we provide a very holistic review from A to Z for those students that, again, have job offers or maybe planning to go on to graduate school to ensure that they're well equipped for their life after WashU. And then, of course, we have a workshop on credit. And so we want students to understand their credit scores, their credit report, and the behaviors and the decisions and things that they do that could either impact their score negatively or positively. And then we rounded out the year with a few more spring workshops. We had our second Mind Over Money, where when students were coming back from their winter break, we wanted to make sure that we were addressing any financial stress that students might be bringing back to campus with them. And so we had someone from our Office of Health Promotion Services run through an exercise to help students identify any financial triggers or stressors and provide them with the tools and the coping mechanisms and resources to deal with that. We also followed up our graduate series with a second workshop on taxes for our grad students, but we also provided a workshop for students at the undergraduate level too, as they were receiving their 1098Ts in January, and we wanted to make sure that they understood that. If their situation requires them to file a tax return, we wanted to make sure that they understood what that meant, provide resources in terms of tax preparation, and just be here to be a source of support and information. And then lastly, we ended with a study abroad. We have a number of WashU students that are interested in studying abroad. And so we always want to make sure that students have thought through the financial side of it. We walk them through a typical budget. Of course, we know it's going to vary by country. And so we will sit down and work with students individually one-on-one to help them understand the program that they're entering, the country that they're entering. We talk about exchange rates. We ensure that they have emergency funds set aside. And so we do provide them with that information as well. So another way that we support students is through one-on-one coaching. What we found this year is we were able to work with students who attended our workshops. Many of them came to the workshop to get the general information, but had their own unique circumstances or unique questions that maybe they might have been too shy to ask in the workshop. But they wanted to specifically sit down and work with someone to take a look at what was going on with them individually, and then we could help them put together a plan to address, provide solutions, or help them understand and teach. And so these are the core areas that we typically cover with students. We help them figure out what their goals are. We kind of take that 30,000 foot view and try to bring it down to something that is tangible. And we try to work out like SMART goals with them and help them figure out how to take that large goal and break it down into core pieces that they can then plan and work with on a monthly basis. Building and managing a budget. So we can definitely continue to work with students, although we have the general workshop that's at the beginning of the year. I have worked with many students in helping them navigate that process. Credit education is huge as well. We have many students that are interested in opening up a credit card. And so we talk about what the options are for there, whether it's best for them to apply for a secured card, a non-secured card. And so we talk with them about that and the impacts it could have to their credit score. Banking basics, we have students that really don't understand what the banking system is like, the products that are available through banks and different financial institutions. And so we cover those basics. And then, of course, debt management. And we typically find that this is a conversation that we've had with our graduate students or students who are about to graduate who now need to really begin thinking about, what this is going to mean to them in their daily budgets when it comes to paying back any student loans that they may have taken, or maybe even doing some future planning when it comes to student loans if they're planning to go on to graduate school. So these are the core areas that we've typically seen that we've worked with students on, and we'll probably likely continue to do that in this upcoming school year. I mentioned that in addition to the one-on-one financial counseling that I provide to students, we also have peer financial educators that have been trained this past year to do this. These are students that are also certified. And so the group of students that you see here are students that signed up to undergo really rigorous training and then also achieved a certification at the end of this fall semester. These students are helping me in terms of the shadowing that they're doing during our core sessions. We also have them help us with workshops. They're helping to facilitate those workshops. We also have them help us with marketing and promoting the office and all of the events that we've got going on. And so we're really excited about this group. We unfortunately lost one due to graduation, but we're planning to replace Tim Ree by advertising a new opening, a new position that should become available sometime this summer. So as students are thinking about of those jobs that they may want to work in the school year, please look out and handshake because we probably will have one or two openings for students to become peer educators for this upcoming school year. And then I mentioned the informal touch points. These are just a couple of flyers from two events that we had in April. April is National Financial Literacy Month. And so we created a week-long series of different ways to engage students when it comes to personal finance. These are two of the events that we created where we wanted to engage students with very short interactions. And so we wanted the interaction, although it's short, to be impactful. And so we came up with a 30-second money challenge where we asked students to identify needs versus wants, as this is a topic that we really dive into when it comes to helping students establish budgets. We also did a Money Mythbusters, facts and myths. And so we found that these interactions were super fun and it really did pique, I think, certain students' interest and really kind of help them identify if maybe there was a gap in their knowledge in certain areas when it came to budgeting and credit and things like that. And so oftentimes what those small exchanges or engagements will do, it will plant a seed. It will help students kind of like become more aware that maybe this is something that I need to dive deeper into or maybe become more familiar with. And oftentimes this will lead to, more engagement further down the road when it comes to personal finance with students. Wellbeing Wednesdays this past year was a huge hit for not only my office, but many offices that are part of the 8 dimensions of well-being. As this wheel shows you, there are many dimensions to well-being, finances being one of them. And so every Wednesday throughout the fall and spring semesters, we have tables full of offices and staff members where we're dealing with one of these areas. And so my office set up shop for financial well-being, and we interacted with over 1,000 students this past academic year. It was an opportunity for students to not only meet our staff, but also to engage with the peer financial educators. Many of these students recognize these students from classes or from student organizations. And so having that connection really sort of made students more comfortable with coming to, a workshop or coming to meet with us to do one-on-one coaching. And so we're going to continue hitting it really hard and heavy with Wellbeing Wednesdays. And I encourage you all to encourage your students to stop by. We'll either be outside in the mud field or here in the Danforth University Center, but we're going to be centered to where students are. And then our digital learning platform, iGrad, we've had iGrad available to students for probably the last 2 or 3 years. iGrad is a free resource and it's on-demand digital learning. Students, all they need to do is to log on with their WashU key. I'm not exactly sure the timing of when your students will receive their WashU key, but if they have the WashU key now, they have access to this platform. And so it is chock full of great information and content on personal finance. Next slide, please. As you can see from some of the popular topics here, of course, we are going to have budgeting available, information about managing credit cards, applying for financial aid, banking, you name it, this topic is going to be covered. We also are offering a mindfulness section in iGrad, and this is a way for students to really think about those de-stressors that we mentioned during the workshop. So there's journaling that students have access to, there are mantras, there's video recordings, there's ways for students to really understand that if they are experiencing financial challenges. There are self-coping mechanisms that they can engage in, but of course, our offices will be here as a resource to help them navigate and work through those situations. What I wanted to share when it comes to one of the resources in iGrad is the budgeting tool. And we're coming back to this slide because I wanted to just use this as an example. So Zach shared earlier about these other expense estimates, books and supplies, transportation, and personal. So I took the pleasure of going in and using some of these numbers to sort of illustrate for you all how students can take these personal expenses and take these pieces of information and plug them into the budgeting tool to help them figure out, okay, how am I going to, cover these amounts throughout the semester? So if we can go to the next slide, I put in a screenshot of what that would look like on the iGrad platform. So this is an example of what a student would see when they go into the monthly budgeting tool. You'll see here that students are able to plug in their income, and their income can come from several sources, and we help students identify what those sources are. In some cases, we have students who are receiving a refund from their financial aid. We also have students that are working part-time jobs, whether it's a work-study job or non-work-study job. And so we want them to make sure that they're accounting for that level of income as well. But other income could also be gifts from family members. And so any way that students are receiving funds, we want to make sure that they're accounting for this. So in this illustration, I have taken the liberty of taking what would it be a $1,000 refund for the fall semester, and I've broken that down into a monthly amount. And so you can see that that refund is a $250 amount on a monthly basis. And that's something that we talk to students about. We tell them that a good way to learn to budget really when you're getting large sums of money is to take that money and break it down into a monthly figure, which seems to be more manageable for students. Then when you go down to the second half of this page, you'll see monthly expenses. And again, taking the amounts that showed under the estimated other expenses, you can see that there is something under personal items for $350. We have books and supplies that we've calculated at $175. And then we have transportation at $130. So when we take a look at this revenue number and then the expenses, what we're trying to do is help students figure out a way to, at a bare minimum, make sure that they net to zero. One of the methodologies that we talk with students about is called the zero-based balanced method. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that they are not underwater, if you will, so that every dollar that they have has been assigned an expense. And so the idea there is for them to, net to zero, that they are not underwater. And if they have a surplus, that's even better. They can take those surplus dollars and take those monies and assign maybe a savings goal to them. But the whole point is that we want to have them see this information. It's a simple tool that they can use, very easy, very straightforward. And it's a very good way for them to manage their monthly expenses, even to be able, like I said, to track savings goals. One of the other things, in addition to the educational piece that the Office of Financial Wellbeing is responsible for, is we also manage the Student Success Fund. The Student Success Fund, the best way I can describe it is a portfolio of funds that have been donated. We have had donors who want to support students who are coming from limited income backgrounds to be able to experience WashU at the best possible level. We know that sometimes emergency situations also arise. So these portfolio of funds are set aside for students to apply to in the event that there's an emergency situation. We have this past year, we've worked with students who had to fly home due to an emergent situation, whether it was due to the illness or death of a family member or loved one. We are responsive to that, and we ensure that, we are providing students with the financial support that they need to get through that situation. We're also supporting students in terms of their engagement with the university. And so the campus organizations that students are involved in, whether it be a fraternal or sorority, it could be a leadership organization. There are fees and dues oftentimes associated with that. And so again, for students coming from limited backgrounds, that could present to be a barrier. So this fund is set aside for students to apply if there are fees or dues that they need help or support with. And then professional development opportunities, we are helping to support students who have a need, but who are interested in maybe engaging in a professional conference, or maybe there is an interview or a graduate school visit that they want to participate in. We're helping students be able to cover those costs, whether it's for registration for events. It could be transportation or travel to these events, but these are some of the main areas in which we're supporting students. In order to be eligible, students must be full-time, fully enrolled students with demonstrated financial need. And that financial information, we work with our partners, Student Financial Services. We're able to identify students that qualify in that regard. The other thing I wanted to point out is when it comes to non-emergency situations, which is probably the majority of the requests that we get, we do work with SFS to also make sure that we're having them undergo a review to ensure that the monies that we're awarding from the Student Success Fund don't negatively impact or interfere with their financial aid. And the last thing I'll mention here is that the fund runs between September to May. So this fund is open all academic year. The application is on our website, as is the iGrad, is most of the information that I've gone through. You can find that on the Financial Wellbeing website, easy to access, and our contact information is there as well. All right. So this is the contact information for both of our offices.
And that has brought us to the question and answer portion of the evening.
Yes.
So I will just encourage again for those of you who have not yet used the question and answer tool to locate that and to type some questions here that we're able to answer for you this evening. Sometimes typing a question takes a long, long time to do too, if it's pretty lengthy. And so if you need to just signal that you have a question, you can just hit a period or something and hit enter on your keyboard, and I'll take that as a sign that there's another question coming. But we have a couple of questions that were asked while you were presenting, Andrea, that I want to go ahead and
Hmm.
take an opportunity to answer here live. So a question about the slides being presented to you. The recording that we are doing tonight through all the slideshows will be posted at a later time. I don't believe the slideshow itself will be provided to students and families unless the office hosting this tonight, the Office of Student Transitions, will convert it to a PDF, and then they might send that along with their email. So we'll touch base with them about that, but do know that the recording will be available and it will have all of the slides with it. And so then the other question that we have is about the potential issues that might come up when using your own health insurance. So what I take that question to mean is if you have two forms of health insurance, what are the potential issues you could run into? And what I think the potential issue is just about optimization, making sure that you're using the right insurance plan to reach your out-of-pocket limits or your deductibles for the year. You don't want to be paying on two different deductibles and pay more than you need to over the course of a year. But if you have acceptable insurance that would replace the university insurance and you don't find that you need the university insurance, you should really seek out the waiver that will be advertised so that you're not assessed the cost of that at the university. If the university insurance, when you review the terms and conditions of it and the benefits of it, is advantageous to you to keep in addition to any other insurance plan that you might have, then I would really say the only pitfall would be not optimizing it and using both plans concurrently when you should maybe focus on utilizing the one that best benefits you. I hope I answered that question correctly based on how I interpreted. And then the question we received next is about the PEP program. So the Partners in Education with Parents program, the financing program, asks, when does repayment start for the PEP program? And so we do want to be specific that the PEP program has different forms. So for example, we'd be talking about the multi-year form or the annual form where you're financing it and you're borrowing versus the prepay plan. So if you're doing the financing part where you're borrowing funds from the institution, repayment begins immediately on that. And so the repayment amounts depend on how much you're borrowing and for what length of time you're borrowing it. These do have interest associated with them, and so the interest does start accruing. But as you go through the process of applying for this, I would encourage you to use our comparison tool, the Financial Planning Comparison Worksheet, which will estimate your monthly amount of payment, of repayment. The student health insurance program application will come out for the waiver application will come out in July. It will be coincidental with the announcement that the health insurance charges are on the account. So when you find out that you have been assessed the fee for the health insurance, it will provide you with information about how to waive that fee. The next question I have here, if tuition is prepaid for 4 years, in order to freeze it at the initial award offer, is it still necessary to submit FAFSA and CSS each year? So actually, that's a great question on a different matter. Financial aid is recalculated annually. So every year you will need to file a FAFSA and the CSS profile applications. Each year's application might determine that you demonstrate a different amount of financial need, and the university will respond to the demonstrated financial need you have differently depending on what has changed in your circumstances. So as you go to file those applications, there's two outcomes. Well, three outcomes. One, your financial aid and your financial needs stay the same every single year. The amount that you have prepaid then will be blocked from increases, and so your out-of-pocket would really stay the same. Second scenario would be that your financial aid offer goes down because you demonstrate less financial need. Presumably, let's say you received a large bonus at work, or you've been promoted and your income has gone up. Keeping in mind that the applications themselves are using income that's 2 years old, many of those things that would change your financial aid eligibility have already occurred at this point in your life. So if your financial aid were to go down, then you would be able to continue receiving the same amount of PEP coverage from the prepaid plan, but the additional amount that was covered by your scholarship would be eligible for you to pay on installment plans or to borrow again on a new PEP program. And then the third option there would be that your financial aid goes up. So if you borrowed enough to cover 4 years, and in future years you find that you have more financial aid and scholarship aid paying for the account, the money that is not being used towards tuition fees, housing, and meals would just be returned to the account, and your principal balance would go down. I'm going to have lots of questions now related to the PEP program I see. So, Andrea, thank you for staying with me. I'm going to go through this. How was the PEP interest rate calculated? So the PEP interest rate calculated is set months earlier than the federal government sets their rates. We set the rates relative to what we believe will be competitive with the federal government to make sure that families have an advantage to pursuing the program that we offer. For the multi-year 6.95%, does it get adjusted downward in the future if the interest rate in the market dropped significantly? No, this is a fixed interest rate. It's not variable. It's not tied to market rates. And so that 6.95% rate is good for the duration of repayment until the loan is paid off. Does the university accept payments directly from 529 plans, or are families required to take payments from 529 and then forward those funds to the university? Both options are available. If you have a 529 plan, one of the links that will be in the PowerPoint, or if you scanned the QR code, which I can return us to, that was a link to our student accounting page. And on that student accounting page, which I'm almost to, So that QR code there. They'll have links in there about the 529 plan and contacting student accounting so that they can directly invoice the provider for your 529 plan. Um, there might be expenses that are educationally related expenses that aren't run through the university. So if you're buying your own textbooks, for example, those might constitute an educational expense, and you might be able to receive 529 funds for that. But they don't need to come to the university so that we can then refund you the money to be compensated for the books you purchased on the private market. So it's a both and. You might contact the 529 plan and have them distribute funds directly to you for funds that you're yourself paying. So it's really dependent on what type of expense it's intended to cover. And this question comes up about the health insurance waivers. So if you don't fill out the insurance waivers, are students automatically signed up for the insurance, or do you need to enroll your student? Students are automatically signed up and assessed the cost for it. Students do need to fill out the waiver in order to opt out of the insurance. There's not an opt-in process. Students can act to go ahead and adopt the insurance and accept the insurance charge. But if they do nothing, by default, they will be assessed the fee and provided the insurance regardless. We appreciate your time and spending it with us this evening. We wish you all well as the months go on before your student joins us in the fall.